G'day, listeners. This episode is proudly brought to you by our sponsors, supshq.com.au. Use BWB15 at checkout to receive 15% off and direct shipping. G'day, listeners. Welcome back to another one of your favorite, now international podcast listens of banter, bullshit, piss takery, and a degree of education. Joined by my usual co-host on the other side of the planet again. How are we doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Last day here. It's nearly midday here today, and I leave tomorrow morning at like 10 a.m. So I guess just under 24 hours now, which is good. Ready to get back home and get into life and sort some shit. It's been good. It's been nice. Been refreshing. And I'm tired as fuck.
How long have you been there for now?
It'll be 10 days in total, man. But it was, like I said, like the tattoo that I got done freaking started at like 11:30 p.m. Didn't finish till 4:30 a.m. I was kind of thinking in my head, I'm like, it may not be the worst thing in the world because if I stay awake all day today, if I can keep awake all night, or like get a small nap in tonight, for example, I got to be out of the hotel by probably 7 a.m. to get to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, well, 10 a.m. flight will be like 4 p.m. your time.
Yep.
So if I can stay awake up until, 9 p.m., maybe 10 p.m. Melbourne time or Australia time, Eastern Standard Time, we'll call it. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we should say. And then sleep, I might be all right. Like we might be all right here. Like I might be able to get the time.
But the tax unfucked you, though it's fucked you.
Yeah, it's like it was worth it staying up so late. And luckily, it wasn't like the start of my trip. It was like now, because if it was at the start of the trip, it would have completely screwed my whole sleep routine. So I might like take I might even drop 2 melatonin. I might just fucking double scoop it. Drop like 20 milligrams of melatonin on the plane at like 9 maybe 10 p.m. Australian time if I can get there. So it'll be what 4 p.m. here. So I'll just be like, well, yeah, it's about nap time. That works. So just drop it and just see what happens. Just couple of melatonin, ask for a red wine, drop a Panadol, and just fucking die. But we'll see. We'll see how we go.
I mean, sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Did you get any golf done?
Yeah. Played a round with my mate up here. So a friend of mine here is a pro at Trump Golf Course up here, which is pretty cool. Like it's quite a notorious golf club. It's a very, very nice golf club. Obviously, Trump, being Trump, and he's one of the golf coaches. One of the golf pros there. So got a lesson in and got a round in with him actually, which was pretty cool this time. I didn't get to play with him last time, so that was fun. It was good. It was a good round actually, which was nice.
Nice.
But yeah, didn't get as much golf as I would usually get. But it's 38 degrees, man. Like at 5:30 this morning, it was 34 degrees. Like it's fucked.
Yeah, fuck that noise.
Yeah, it's fucking hot. Like we played at 7:30, and by 9 it was like 40 degrees. So it's like, what do you? Yeah, like what do you do? Like, don't get me wrong, I love the heat, but at the same time, like there's only so much you can do. Like we're in carts and stuff, and it's pretty looked after. Like they have guys that come around on the carts every like third hole and give you like icy poles for free. Like you can call the drinks cart if you're struggling. If you don't, if you manage to not get to one of the little shops on course, they have them at like every fourth hole here. Like it's insane. And they're always staffed. It's fucked. It's absolutely fucked here. But that's what you get for paying the green fees and stuff. So green fees are expensive as fuck. Yeah.
I mean, they're basically expecting people to drop dead and dehydrate. So what's more expensive, the court case or just having people there?
100%. Well, I wonder if it'd be in like a waiver. Like so apparently,
it's gotta be.
Well, it's funny because like when you book in on a green fee here, if you're doing it online, I didn't have to do it because obviously my mate put me in. But if you do it online, I don't think there's like a tick box for a waiver from memory. I mean, there could be, but I don't remember. But when I got into the club, the pro shop, they make you sign this little waiver thing because a couple of weeks ago, apparently, some kid, 16-year-old, had basically driven one of the buggies, I think, down one of the sand dunes.
Nice.
And so it's like, but his dad didn't want to pay for the repairs.
What?
Yeah, so apparently the 16, this is what I've been told by like the pro, right? He's like, yeah, apparently he wasn't there, but apparently one of the guys has driven this buggy and down at one of there's these huge fucking sand dunes, right? He's driven it down the sand dune. It's obviously broken, and the dad doesn't want to pay repair. So now they've got waivers at the front where you sign them. I think I didn't read it. I just signed it. Fucking who reads T's and C's? And they're like, if you break shit, you pay for it. I'm kind of like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like they probably have some insurance on them, but there's a premium that you probably have to cover.
Yeah, exactly right. So I mean, either way, it's funny. Couldn't stop laughing, so I was just like, well,
Like,
here we are.
what do you think's gonna happen? You're driving down a fucking sand dune and it breaks. Oh,
Yeah, and it's like I don't
I'm
know if
not
the
paying
kid
for
that
that.
like didn't know that there was a dune there because it's like obviously it just like drops off, right? So it's like if you're driving looking for your ball and like maybe he just got too close and he just couldn't bail out, like who knows, right? Um,
Okay.
but fuck yeah, like still his dad didn't want to pay. It's just like, man, your kid fucking broke a buggy. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. What? You're like they don't hang you for it.
Bro, like they probably could put him on a payment plan of like $1 a week and they would have been happy. Like it's fucking Dubai, yeah. Like it's Trump Golf Course.
Yeah.
They've got money.
Yeah. Yes. It's more the premise that you tried to deny paying for it as opposed to the fact that you
Yeah,
did
like
have to
you,
pay
you
for
didn't want to pay for it. Like, what do you mean? Like, make your kid
it.
pay
Yeah.
for it then.
Yeah. Welcome to the joys of choosing to have a child.
He's old enough to have a job. Go get a job.
Yeah. Look, you're gonna work for 20 years for Trump to pay off that wagon. Off you go.
Yeah, exactly right. It's like you're 16 and you haven't got a job. You're 20 years too late, bro. What's going on?
You should have already had an investment property by now. What do you mean?
Bad. You should have owned like one of the little fucking islands off Dubai already. What's going on?
You haven't got a fucking world famous TikTok? What are you doing? You're wasting time. Such a
Yeah,
wasted
100%.
generation. Loser. You're
Bad.
a loser.
Not 100%. But how's the land? How's the land of Oz? Seems cold.
We've got some good weather. Hey, well, maybe the last couple of days, but like it's been like it's like that up here anyway. It's like that weather of like the shade is a nice breeze, but the sun's like that perfect temperature.
Yeah, yeah.
Just been fucking living that up, getting the steps in with the sun, getting some sun on the roof. Been good. Doing some study there
Yeah.
and getting some meals in. It's good.
Beautiful.
I
You got exams coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I've got it. I've got exams coming up next Wednesday morning. It'll be my last exam for the semester, which is good. So, um, socials content and stuff's kind of taking a backward step. I'm just sort of like sharing and storing and stuff like that. But yeah, I was like, I need to put all my effort into either just relaxing and reading and going over notes, or just condensing and reviewing lectures. So I'm like,
Yeah.
writing some content for a week's just not priority.
That's
Um,
fair.
but yeah, it's I pulled a big fuck up on Monday and I forgot because we started this aggressive phase on Monday morning or Monday, sorry. I knew it was coming because like I'd gone through maintenance and I'd eaten the same food all week and my weight was actually up and I was like, my body's fucking weird. 2 weeks ago, had I have missed, 200, 300 carbs, I would have lost 2 kilos. This week, or sorry, last week, we pulled food down, obviously, with the maintenance phase, took 200 carbs away, and I held and then went up. So I was
Yeah.
like, cool. And then like, I knew it was coming. So I'm like, I forgot that you were fucking miles away. I'm like, I got through my morning, did my usual steps, my usual cardio, did my usual like morning work. And I was like, oh, I'll just fast through until SCAF just tells me what the go is because I can fast. It's not a big deal. Took all my supplements and stuff that I knew would go in. And I was like, oh, I'll just wait for you to tell me. And then I realized, I was like, I'll send you a message. And I realized that you hadn't even opened it yet or seen anything yet. And it was like, I don't know, 3 p.m. And I'm like, oh, yeah. He's like miles away.
Yeah,
So
like yeah, exactly right.
I was like, by the time I think the check-in came on mine at like 1:30 a.m. And I'm like, fuck, I'm glad I'm not fast for that. That was I think I ended up having like 2 meals the whole day, but like I woke up Tuesday morning down like 2.5 kilos. I was like, well, not doing that again.
Well, I mean, now we know better. We're in routine now.
Yeah, we got down pat now. Now it's all fats and protein, no carbs.
Yeah, exactly
The
right.
amount the amount the amount of the amount of looks like just when like you can imagine the look on someone's face when they read the context. Like when I put up a post of like I think it was yesterday, about fasting because I wasn't even anticipating high fats. I was like, this cunt's just gonna make me do protein sparing, proper protein sparing.
No, no, no.
And I was like, fucking, here we go. Get used to just dieting on 250 protein or some shit. And then I shared a meal and you're like 65 fat. And I was like, fucking, this is heaven fucking compared to other cuts I've done. And the looks on, like, I can just tell the looks on people's faces when they replied to the story. They're just like, zero carbs? How the fuck are you doing that? And I'm like, what do you mean, man? Like, fast until 1 o'clock, take your subs, have your drugs, take your fucking caffeine, go do your steps, get your work done, make sure you train
Exactly.
in the morning, get the food in the rest of the night.
Well, it's like when people don't understand a true ketogenic diet and how it's supposed to be. Like, I don't think people understand like ketogenic being low carb. Ketogenic
Yeah.
originally was 20 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like traditionally, ketogenic is 20 grams
Yeah.
of carbs, and then you fill the rest with fats and protein. So it's like
So I
20
don't think
grams.
protein went that high, did it?
Nah, not from memory, but it's like, like 20 grams and zero. So sure, let's say that it's zero carb, but then like you put sauce on your food. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
3 or 4 grams of carbs. What do you fucking do? Like,
Yeah.
really, you could say 100 grams of carbs, and you're probably not going to see too much of a difference between zero carb and 100 carb. But it's
Yeah.
like, well, fuck it, just go all out. Don't
Yeah. That's
leave any
my
stone. Yeah, don't leave any stone unturned. But people, yeah, because that's how me. That's how I diet. I'm like, fuck it, just send it. And then I know that
yeah.
when I get my refeed, I'm like, I'm gonna go fucking ham, bro. So
Yeah, legit. Like for me, I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, okay, cool. So I know that, like you said, whether 0 to 100, whatever, but trace carbs are going to come from vegetables and stuff anyway, but who gives a fuck about that? Because I'm going to shit those out. Um,
exactly.
when it comes down to extreme dieting for like the back ends of prep and stuff, I track
Yeah,
veg, I include veg and make sure that we're conscious of that. But like at this point in time, veg is just going to help the protein pass out properly. So having adequate like fiber intake just makes sense, and also a bit of satiety to make fucking brains of it. I think Joshy was trying to give me shit, and he's just like, I thought sauces have carbs in it. I'm like, bruh, it's Heinz low calorie mustard and Heinz low calorie barbecue sauce. There's a total of like 3 carbs here for fucking the serve that's on it.
yeah,
I was like, if that 3 carbs means I can get 2 to 4 weeks of 600 carb deficit, I'm probably going to take the 2 to 3 carbs of sauce. Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's exactly right. It's being at the end of the day, this isn't a prep diet. It's a cleanup phase. So it's like, how accurate to zero carb are you going to be? Well, you can't be zero carb.
you
Like you're having
can't be.
fruits and veg. You're having fruits and veg, for example. It's like you're going to have carbohydrates in there anyway. So that's why when people are like zero carb, and I'm like, yeah, but it's like it's zero net carb. It's not zero fucking like actual carb. You're having fruit and veggies in there. Like I'm not taking away fruits and veg. Like traditionally, I think people don't realize that the protein modified sparing is like literally you can only eat certain veggies. You have to take away
Yeah,
fruit, like all this other shit. It's like fucking, I'm not doing that. That makes no sense. You're in such a deficit as it is. It's like, why do I need to
yeah.
create more of it? And then the other side to it, people don't realize is that you're supposed to be like ephedrine. I think clenbuterol might be in there from memory, and then some other stuff. And I'm like, we don't need that, bro.
Yeah. I remember one of the first ones I did with Dolt. It was literally 800 calories total. No, sorry, a lie. It was maybe 1,000 calories total. It was 800 of those calories came from protein and
Yeah,
200 was from tracked veg.
yeah, yeah. That's not
And that was
surprising.
like, did that for 10 days. And he's
Yeah,
like, also, I want to take all your supplements. I want you to have ice cold water or showers first thing in the morning. You got to do your cardio, fucking all the like every minute detail. I was like, all right, I want you to experiment with this. I'm like, sure. No
yeah,
worries, bro.
yeah, yeah. The only
Fucking
thing now,
hell, it was
obviously,
horrible.
yeah, the only thing being an enhanced individual with this sort of diet is just do fasted cardio, because in the enhanced world, we know that fasted cardio actually has a benefit, especially when lipolytics are in play versus a natty doing the same thing, which you can do, don't get me wrong. But doing like a fasted cardio versus non-fasted isn't going to be any different in somebody that's natural versus enhanced. So that's the only thing I'd be
Mhm.
saying. Just like, hey, if you're enhanced and you want to do this, go for it. But make sure you have lipolytics in play, and you do some fasted shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I had some of my lads message me like, can I do this for prep to get ahead? I'm like, no, 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 it's different. No, no, we're not. No,
It's like,
shut
yes,
up.
do 20 weeks of it, please.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're already halfway through prep. I'm gonna give you a protein sparing fast at the front end of your prep, and then we'll try and manage the fatigue you already have now for the next 16
Yeah,
weeks.
100% do it. And then do
Good
it in the
luck.
week. Do it in peak week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just flatten you the fuck out, if
Yeah, well,
nothing
that's how you
else.
flat. That's
Bring
how
a
you
nice,
flatten someone out.
bring a nice flat look to stage. No big deal. Don't put carbs
100,
back in to fill up.
100%.
Just sodium and water. But yeah, actually surprisingly, because like new program block, so it was good. I I haven't got strength to that degree of performance yet where I've like gone backwards in new stimulus. So I was like, fucking Tuesday morning, absolutely no food, pumped out like my incline Smith press. I was like, oh, got an extra 3 reps on this. This is pretty good. And I'm like, oh, the question is, can I do that next week and the week after and the week after that?
Well, that's just the thing. And it's like probably something to touch on as well in a deficit. Performance isn't necessarily the end goal. It's like we want to maintain performance. We're not looking to potentially progress performance. Like, yeah, your mentality should be, I want to progress performance. But at the same time, you're probably not, because you are in fact, an energy fucking deficit, right? So it's like,
And
you know,
pretty heavy
you're in a calorie fucking deficit, bro. So, you know, be that guy. Like we have to keep that in mind. It doesn't change the mentality towards training, but it also, you still need to realize that your training will waver at some point. And the other thing that, like, especially in powerlifting, like when you go through cuts and you lose body fat, you don't necessarily always lose strength. You lose leverage because your body changes, your body comp changes. So it's like fat that you had in certain areas is now gone. So now your mechanics actually change. So most of the, like a lot of the time, it's a nervous system issue, not necessarily a strength or muscular strength issue, we'll call it. So that's another thing to consider, especially in deficits. And, you know, the initial phase of harsh deficits, it's like you're probably not going to be losing strength that fast. It takes quite a while.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, and like I said, from that it becomes then like a recognition. Like the way I kind of explain it to some people too is like if you can hold maintenance, or if you can maintain at least to a degree strength or total volume, if you equate for the fact that you've lost weight and you're holding almost strength that you started the cut with, that's a pretty decent degree of either almost progression in the sense that you've gotten smaller, but your strength is staying relatively the same. So if you like map that out on say a graph, you've got weight as a downward trend and you've got maintenance like your strength at a maintainable position from where you started. You look at that gap towards the back end of the prep, like you've like in ratio relative, you've probably got stronger or at least like better at that movement
right.
because you're like, well, I'm lighter, but I'm holding the same reps for the same weight. Well, then, so if we looked at that inversely and you started off with that weight and that was your end finish point with strength, I'd say you got stronger. So like if we're looking at that from a performance aspect, like that's what we're trying to do really in such an aggressive cut. We're not building mass, we're not improving strength per se. The idea is to just get as much weight off in terms of body fat whilst maintaining as much strength as possible to prevent muscle wastage.
Yeah, exactly right.
And just do it as rapid as can in 4 weeks or 5 weeks. Or I just said to Brooklyn, I'm like, I'm assuming this is going to be something I do until I go to America. And you're going to be like, okay, you can have some meat.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, it's funny because it's like we have like the plans in place, and you know, in theory, the plan is sort of a 4 to 6 weeker, but it's also based on look and how lean we want to get. But also, then we have to take into account, like you said, you're going away and all that sort of stuff. So this is where the reactive side of coaching comes in versus the proactive. Like, and there was a big debate about literally last week or something, proactive versus reactive coaching.
Deloading.
It's like,
yeah,
proactive. Yeah, fucking Schoenfeld, dumb fuck. Anyway, fuck, man, he's so dumb. Like I don't understand how someone is so smart and contributes so much, yet once his contribution is done, everything he then contributes thereafter is just like nuanced, stupid shit. Like, anyway, I read the study back to front, and I'm like, this is fucking dumb. Like, I was actually having conversations with a few people during the week, like the last week or so, and I'm like, look at the participants that they use and look at the paradigm that they used. Like, it's stupid. Like, no one does that. Like, what are you talking about? None of them train to failure. None of them have accrued enough fatigue to deload on the fourth week.
To warrant a deload, yeah. Like, that's what I saw too.
Like, you're leaving gains on the table, bro. But anyway, we won't get into that. Obviously, it's a touchy subject, but I'm really tired.
And he's like, there's no difference in deload mid block to the end of the block, so therefore I'm reconsidering why I do it.
If you're taking a week off in any sense, if you're taking a week off when you don't need it, you are then taking a week of potential progress away. So if you have 3 deloads over 12 weeks or 15 or 14, 15 weeks, that's 3 weeks of progress you haven't made that you could have made. Now, if you're training to an intensity or to an energy level where you get to that 4th week, 5th week, and you're like, nothing is going, like your body's broken, your sleep is shit, your resting heart rate's up, your blood pressure's up, like, you know, the weights aren't moving, there's no connection, like all these other little facets. then you're like, okay, maybe you do get a deload. And that's something that like I used to run during my growth phases during lockdown when I was training like a dickhead. Like
Mhm.
Joe would be like, dude, we are proactively deloading you every fifth week because I know you're an idiot. And I'm like, yes, fair call. Like I
Old.
can't disagree with you. But I was also pulling 200 for like 200 kilo RDLs for 15 fucking reps in my garage. Like there was a reason.
Warranted.
Yeah, well, and then I went to hospital for my pancreas, so it's like all the stress went to the top. Like there was a fucking reason, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, Schoenfeld's a dickhead. Anyway,
What were we rambling on before
anyway,
that ramble?
I never remember what we're going to talk about. You talk about something to do with, or we were going to talk about 4 week parrot programming. Isn't that what we're talking
Oh, there's fucking 20,000 things we talk about now, apparently. No, so we're going to go through one. So, yeah, because it's not going to be anything because it's come from consult recently, so it's not going to be anything about in particular, but per se, like the concept of this that I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it may be a method that I have not seen in a long time, and therefore just I'm absent of knowledge on it. But the idea of proactively redesigning your exercise and program layout every fourth week with new exercise, even if it's of the same like
movement pattern?
mechanistic idea
Yeah,
or movement pattern,
yeah,
but like
yeah,
we're going to vary and put in a substitute here every fourth week. To me, that is screaming insecure of job or insecure of position, in that I've got to justify to you that I'm doing something to show you what I'm worth paying for, instead of looking at the fact that my client is coming to me and getting a fuckload of results for 12 to 16 weeks with minimal changes. So we've hit the nail on the head pretty early. Why would I change what isn't broken? And then, but like, instead of looking at that aspect, it's like, well, every fourth week I'm modifying either exercise selection or exercise modality inside the framework of the program, and then wondering why they aren't ever going to require a deload, insert Schoenfeld, or that they aren't, getting to a level of intensity where growth is occurring to warrant the changes or increasing calories, or getting food up to a certain position. Like this to me, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, we're trying to grow, we're trying to get food up, we're trying to accrue mass and build tissue. I want you to train yourself into the fucking ground to the point where you're begging me for a deload, so that by the time, so say we're entering a growth phase, the level of intensity that you are training at is warranting the level of food that I'm increasing you by, and thereby we're potentiating growth. The intensity you are training with is accumulating stimulus, is causing a hypertrophy response. I'm giving you the calories to match that, and we are building tissue. Over a period of time, that's going to accrue us leading to more mass. If we're changing exercise every fourth week and you can't get to that level of training intensity, firstly the systematic connection that I feel week 16 versus week 1 and 2 is fucking so different. The
yeah,
connection you have, like mechanistically, it's just neurologically, the connection pathways, how you feel under the load, everything is just better week fucking 12, 13, 14, 15 compared to week 1 or 2. So if
yeah.
I'm doing that every 4 weeks to change that, and now I've got to reconnect with that movement, like I'm leaving so much gains on the table.
Yeah, and it's exactly as you said. Like I know I used to do that way back in the day. Like, and to me, obviously, coming into personal training, coming into online coaching, people paying you a monthly fee. Like the biggest kicker is one, most other coaches would be doing it at the time. This is a while ago though, and then two,
Yeah.
people are paying you like per month. So in theory, in your head as a coach, per month, you're like, well, I need to give them something of value. Now,
Mhm.
the other side to that was for me personally anyway, was I was only doing programming. So it's like they
Yeah.
pay me a monthly fee. I do all the tech corrections and all that sort of stuff for
Yep.
powerlifting, and have it as part of the block for a prep or whatever it is for powerlifting prep. But like every 4 weeks, you'd have your mains as always, like especially with powerlifting, squat, bench, dead, pretty straightforward. And
Yeah.
then you might change some of the accessories around that movement that you want to include. So whether it's a pause squat, front squat, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the accessories after that, let's be real, like no powerlifter trains accessories still. But the
They're
two
written
or
there, but they
three,
don't do them.
the 2 or 3 accessories that you do have in there for powerlifters, you may change, every 4 weeks because there's only 2 or 3 per session. And
Yeah.
like as a coach who's being paid to write the program, you're like, okay, well, I've done my job. Now, obviously, with the knowledge that we've accrued over time and that sort of stuff, obviously, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, we can have the same movement pattern, but it's still a new skill. An incline Smith machine press, an incline
Mhm.
barbell press, an incline dumbbell press, and
Mhm.
then like an incline like hammer press, plate loaded hammer press, are all
Mhm.
three very similar movements, yet they're all vastly different. They
Yeah.
require different skill sets. So if you're doing one of them in a 4 week block, then you move to the next one. Sure, you might get some carryover and all that sort of stuff, but you're still adjusting to a new skill. And like you said,
Yeah.
we know that we need at least probably 4 weeks to actually get the skill right, get the neural pathway and not neural drive right. And that's where usually the initial progress comes from, or that people think, like they call it progressive overload, right? Which we know tech refinement is a form of progressive overload to a
To a
degree.
degree.
But so, if you're progressively overloading from a skill point in 4 weeks, you still haven't progressively overloaded from a load perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like, from a mechanical tension, muscular tension side of things. So it's like, okay, well, we've got 4 weeks to get the actual skill right. And now we've got another 10, 12 weeks to start actually adding reps and weight to the sets.
Yeah.
So, and when I say reps, I mean effective reps, not just
But even
volume.
even on top of that, then like let's move them into like leg-based patterns. The difference in say like understanding depth, range of motion, or the entire mechanism of the pathway of a pendulum, a hack, a V squat, a stand, like even a Bulgarian or something like that. If you're inserting squat pattern, those four different machines or exercises have such different moment arms, different lengths, different contractions, different weakened positions. To think that you just go, all right, that's like 4 weeks, off we go, we're good. By the time you get into the phase where you've standardized your rep, you've understand your cadence and know where your depth is, where you're comfortably getting range of motion, and know that you're feeling where you're supposed to feel it. Like, yeah, a good trained athlete can probably jump in there and go, week 1 or 2, I'm pretty good. But even still, by week 3 to 4, then you're supposed to be hitting zero RAR and progressing, only to then change it, where you're now going to do that exact same process over again, spend week 1 to 2, get familiar with the program, and then you get to 3 or 4 with a deal with a zero RAR, if you will, and again rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
The
and
the benefit to me is literally just running the fuck out of that exercise into the ground as hard as you can. Like some of my clients used to, I get like they get not confused, but like they're genuinely surprised. A block might run 16, 20 weeks, but I'm like,
Mhm.
you have increase in the target areas that we want to work on. You've got stronger over time in those muscle groups in those rep ranges. You are proficient at this movement now, and the areas we want to grow are growing, and you've increased food to a level you've never eaten before, and a condition that isn't changing. So intensity is there, control is there, mechanical tension is there, response to stimulus is there, and we're progressing in loads that are actually reasonably responsive, and we can now work and push up to say MRV and find where your cap is. Why would you
Yeah.
want to change it?
Well, that's just it, right? It's like, because again, depending on the demographic that you work with, one, people get bored, which is
Oh
always the
yeah, of course, yeah.
biggest thing, and that's the hardest part with a more gen pop style, and that's when it just comes back to like an educational standpoint, and then also working with the client. Like you definitely do want to include some exercises that they enjoy, or
Oh, for
will
sure.
keep them, yeah, which will keep them adherent to the program. But at the same time, if they're coming to you for a goal, like you need to be able to explain, hey, the reason why I don't give you, I don't change your incline Smith press for 16 weeks is because that's the main movement for that day. That's my marker of progress. I need to see how you progress on that movement because it
Mhm.
takes a lot. That's why. The only reason why we change something usually is due to being like injured, or there's some
Mhm.
sort of restriction on the movement. And again, it's not to say that every now and then you go to a busy gym, you want to go incline Smith press and someone's on it and they've only just started. Like, okay, well, you either move it down the exercise order, or like for that one session, sure, like the incline hammer press is available. Fuck it. That happens. Life happens. Go for it. You're not going to lose anything by doing that.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Just
But yeah,
substitute in.
but you don't want to be doing that every damn week and changing the exercise to something like something different every week.
Yeah, I've seen like even pro coaches where they they charge based on, and this is right. I don't know if this is where some of the confusion comes in, but like I've seen pro coaches where they'll program. I saw this because I was like curious on the prices and the structure of it all. They advise on nutrition and drug protocol and overall weaknesses and stuff where you need to train. Then they charge extra for actual training blocks. So if you just pay like say Pro Coach One, I think it was like I don't know $3,000 for a prep, you just get your supplementation advice, as in like exogenous supplementation, and you get your nutritional guidance, and they kind of just tell you sort of like what areas they suggest that you would fix. So
Yeah.
let's say like, oh, I'm upper chest clavicle weak. Okay, so
Mhm.
you're going to insert, and it's to the depth of saying basically from what I read was insert upper Smith press or insert an upper controlled press, insert an upper controlled like stable barbell press or something like that. And it's basically just synonymous, almost like they're interchangeable. And so, like you said, I could go by that template map out and go, well, I might do this day on I'm feeling a dumbbell, or I'm feeling a
Yeah.
barbell. Well, next week I'm feeling a Smith machine. Next week, oh, that hammer strength or gym 80 is looking pretty nice. The convergence on that's pretty good. I might throw that in. You've got no real marker of progression or systemization because you've just gone X, Y, Z. These all fit together. They're all the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
exactly right. Well, that's it. How
it
are you
just
meant to progress it? Like, how are you meant to be like, what, you think you've capped it out in 4 weeks? Like, good job.
yeah. And anyone who's trained knows for a fact there is a fucking big difference between feeling 50 kilo dumbbells on incline dumbbell press versus 80 to 100 kilos on incline Smith machine press versus fucking 80 to 100 kilos on a barbell incline press. Anyone that's trained knows there's a very big difference in how those feel. And then you go to like something that's really like mechanically advantageous, like a gym 80 or what do you call it? A hammer strength convergence chest press. All very different feelings of weight that you can't just go, oh, I did 80 kilos on one, so I'll do 80 kilos on the other. It's just not
Yeah.
going to be the same.
Yeah,
So,
exactly right. Exactly right. They don't transfer over. And it's like even the same machine at two different gyms doesn't transfer over.
yeah,
Like how many times have you gone on like a leg extension? It's like, oh, Cybex leg extension, sweet, 200 pounds. Then you go to like a Life Fitness leg extension, 200
yep,
pounds. Wait, this isn't 200 pounds.
yep,
This isn't the same. Like, what's going
yep.
on? And that
And then you
that's
get the
where it's like,
fucking,
gone.
well, you just get like stuff, even stuff like cable crossovers that have double pulley
Yeah.
systems versus a single pulley system.
Exactly right. And that's when, the actual like physics of lifting comes into play and biomechanics comes into play and understanding all that sort of stuff. And we won't get into that because we'd be here all day.
But yeah, that was just interesting because I hadn't seen it before to that degree. And I was like, look, I'm not gonna like if you want that excitability, I'm not gonna change that level that frequently. But where the excitement comes in is you're also going to respond like crazy because you've never taken, or for a long period of time, I'm guessing, haven't taken training progression to such a degree where intensity is that high where you're actually nervous about training. Like, you can train hard per session, right? But if every fourth week it's changing, you're like, oh, I know something new is coming. So it's kind of always excitable.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between that type of excitement and getting to like a hack squat day or a pendulum day or a fucking bent over row day. And you're like, I know that I have to control fucking, 160 kilos, 250 kilos for controlled reps for 2 sets with tempo work. Like that level gets beyond excitement to the point of arousal, borderline like scarcity. Like you're like, fuck.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it's where the motivation or the excitement comes. Like, are you looking at the outcome or like the outcome of, the 4 week block, or are you looking at the longer process of 16 weeks? Because I think if you can say, hey, I can't wait to see what week 1 to week 16 looks like, you're not going to care what those weeks look like in
Yeah,
between in terms of sessions. You're just going to get the work done.
exactly.
You know what I mean? But maybe you're looking at a progression from week 1 to week 4, and you're like, okay, like that's that progression for that block. What's the next progression for the next block? And it's like you haven't given yourself enough time to progress in anything.
Yeah.
Like we need to see, hey, 1 to 16, same shit, day in, day out, 16 weeks, let's go. But I think people are getting better at it now. But it wasn't that case like 4 or 5 years ago. And again, I was included in that. I used to write programs for every 4 weeks, and I'm sitting here like, man, there's only so many exercises I can do every fucking 4 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially before you
Yeah.
start rotating them around. And I have that same problem when I'm writing the program for my gym, because I write the programming, or I'm one of the main person that writes the programming for my
Yeah.
the gym that I own or co-own, and it's like it's all Gen Pop. We only have barbells and dumbbells, really.
Yeah.
Like there's only so many like exercises that are available to you to write, and they want something new every 4 weeks because that's what they're
Yeah.
used to. So it's like, okay, well, how do we tell them, we're going to keep the mains and just manipulate sets and reps, and we're going to have like there's going to be quite similar accessories in this because we're limited by equipment and also by what actually works, not
Yeah.
what you see on TikTok and Insta reels and
Yeah,
all this
yeah.
other shit. Like, doing a curtsy lunge. I saw someone actually trying to say a curtsy lunge was good. It's like dumb fucking
Ugh.
Brett Contreras trying to say the frog pump is fucking effective. Like, the guy thinks he's got a master's in biomechanics. It's like, if you do, you'd understand what that does to the fucking hip. But anyway, we won't even get into that conversation. As you can tell, people, I am tired and I haven't eaten yet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
People keep saying, why does Ben rant and you not? I'm like, I'm usually quite placid. Just depends what we're talking about.
So, new rule for getting rants out of Scaff is pick a time when he's tired on a different area
Yeah.
code of the country, of the fucking of the
Yeah.
globe,
Post tattoo fucking
post tattoo,
four fucking
and
5 hours sitting at 11:30
don't let him eat
p.m.
yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bad.
sold. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just, and again, it's never like I said. I'm not going to name names or saying because it wasn't about that. It was just more so like,
Fuck
yeah,
it, I'll name
and looking at
Fuck
looking
it.
at loads and things, looking at loads and things like that. I was just like, there's better means to achieve what you're trying to do here, and I kind of just clear that up straight away because I don't want that misconception coming to my coaching in the sense that you've come from someone else who might do that. You're not getting that frequency of adjustment. Like I've had newbies that are like, fucking never had a coach before, been training in the gym for a couple of years, but I've never actually trained. And they were asking for when's this end? And I ran them for like I modified exercise based on what they said they wanted, things that would include areas they wanted progression, but also what I wanted to see them get better at. And I was like, look, you've got the exercises you like, you've got the exercise I want you to do, and you've got the volumes and the ranges I want you to attack them in. I was looking over his data, and each week I was sort of indicating like, look, you need to be at least upping, like I think it was like by week 3. It's just one of the guys, and he's like, I think it was like 4 sets of 12 to 15, and he got 4 sets of 15 3 weeks in a row. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, bro, I'm trying to tell you here, you don't need new exercises. You need to up the intensity. If you hit the same targets and the same reps and you haven't increased load, I'm asking what you're doing because there's no point changing exercise at this point because you haven't actually done anything. That's obviously way too light for you. And the fact that you've calmly got to 12 to 15 reps and not written anything in feedback is in like, bro, fuck, I was dead. Like your RIR feedback or your RPE feedback in the session assessment was like, felt pretty good. That to me is saying that we don't need to modify things. We need you to go harder because like once you start feeling that connection, that stimulus, you're not asking for like different shit. You're like, how do I make this better and keep tweaking it and get better and get better and get better? Like it's an ongoing skill you'll continually progress that is not going to happen, in the first year that you train, let alone, hey, I've been with a coach for 4 weeks and then you program.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And like I said, it's an old mentality. And also, as much as I hate on like studies or people referencing studies have their place, right? Like we need to extrapolate data to try and understand things. We're limited by what we can test and who we can test, right? That's just how it is. So if you're not the person in the study, like if that's not your lifestyle, then don't try to portray the study as being viable to you and your demographic because it's not. If you're
call that generability, people.
Yeah, if we're the people that are in the study, by all means, fair's fair, go nuts. This could be way more applicable than what it actually is. But again, there's no real good studies, if any studies done on probably like majority of the listeners, gym goers, more than your average gym goer, not your Gen Pop client. So anyway.
Even when we see like I laugh when we see like we use trained participants or trained individuals, and you look at what that defines or what they've defined that by. Oh, I've had two plus years of training in the gym. Okay, think back to when you started training. Were you training in the gym in the first 2 years? Man, I was training for a position on a rugby league field that my movements were purely for the outcome of the fact that I wanted to be better and explosive on the field, not whether I was maintaining mechanical tension to grow. I was 16 playing for a position on a footy field. So
exactly right.
If your criterion for fucking participation is 2 years or more of trained individual, well, that's not a reflection of advanced or intermediate training athlete. That's not like, okay, that now applies to advanced bodybuilders. Sorry,
Yeah,
but it
exactly right.
doesn't.
Yeah, no, and then that's exactly what it is. It's like the thing is as well. I think we like coaches forget that the more intermediate to advanced trainees, we'll call them, is a very niche group. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very small percentage of people that go to the gym, right? And that's like
Mm-hmm.
we know that, and sometimes I think people forget that. So when we're going hard, like ham on it, it's like, well, it's because the people that we all associate are basically similar to us. It's our demographic. So
Yes.
again, when I hate on people referencing studies, it's like, well, it's because most of the people I do liaise with are a very similar mindset and similar
Yes.
training background, not necessarily those that are brand new, Gen Poppy, don't have the same goals, that sort of stuff. And I think that's where personally I'm very lucky. I can actually take myself out of it because I do own a gym that's Gen Pop based. So it's like
Yeah.
we have 150 plus members that are Gen Pop. Plus, I've got my online clients that are more advanced than your Gen Pop. So it keeps it
Yes.
fresh.
Exactly.
But yes,
Um,
questions?
yeah, I suppose let's do some questions.
All right, let's do it. You want to kick off or you want me to kick off?
Uh, I got a few good ones. Um,
That laugh's always
uh,
nerve-wracking.
are fruit flies healthier than regular flies?
Sorry,
That's good.
I don't know the diet of an insect.
Yeah, I can't say I know the data or the diet of an insect to give you the nutritional understanding of their person.
Yeah, I have no
Um,
idea.
how often do you implement supersets and do you prefer antagonist muscle groups?
No.
Um, I implement it very rarely when people need intensifiers at the back end and just get training done.
Yeah, for me, again, person dependent, time
Yeah.
dependent. I haven't worked with somebody that needs them per se. Um, but at the same time, you're accruing fatigue and fatigue intra-set, intra-workout fatigue that doesn't allow you to recover as optimally as possible for your next set, which means you don't get
Hmm.
as many effective reps in that next set, which then as a byproduct in its entirety over the workout, the block, the year, means you just leave gains again on the table.
Hmm. Yeah. It's simples. I mean, if I do them, yeah, it's usually like again going like same muscle group supersets. I fucking hate it because it's like by the time you get back to that priming exercise or the primary exercise, then you completely fucking tanked it. Like doing an incline press with like a fly is to me just illogical in trying to progress that bench press thing. Because by the time I get back to bench, I've now done two working sets on the chest before I even get back to now my third, and I'm only in the second set of what might be 2 to 4 top sets. Like I just don't. I'm not a huge fan of it. Um, if I were to do it, it's usually stuff like simple shit. Like if I'm finished off a training program, it's like tricep extensions with bicep curls or something like that, where it's just like that's done. It's not
Yeah.
impacting that much fatigue overall for the training session.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's the best PEDs for women? The best ones.
So I'm glad that they use the word PED because it doesn't necessarily mean androgenic anabolic steroids.
Yeah, literally, what I was
AAS.
gonna say.
What's the best? It's like there's no best. Again, place and time and place, and then obviously phase specific, goal specific. But we do have other things. It's like you've got your basics in thyroid medications if you really wanted to, but obviously you got to be quite well versed in it. T3, T4 can have some positive or net positive effects when it works synergistically with other things. There's things like your insulin, which is a lower tier from a safety profile based on dose and length of time, as always when it comes to this stuff. Is a nice little uh, or safer, I guess. I don't like using the word safe, but a safer option for building tissue. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like metformin has its benefits. Um, if you wanted to go into a little bit, I guess, more of a higher class type drug PED, like clenbuterol's got some really nice muscle sparing or muscle building even
Mm-hmm.
effects in females, which is really cool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably a touch, as much as I again don't like using the word, touch safer than
Mm-hmm.
anabolic androgenic steroid use. So there's tons of options, man. Like tons. It basically anything that avoids any androgen receptor
Yeah,
cascades, I think you'd be all right.
which then ties into the next question. Can virilization be undone?
It depends on the extent. So obviously, it's like it's like anything. You take a drug and it's like you have an adverse effect. Stop taking the drug.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, it's probably going to reverse itself out. You'll be okay.
yeah,
If you have it chronic, I don't. From my understanding, no.
yeah. 'Cause at a
Once
certain
it's
point,
what,
once
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 it's
you
in,
start
it's
down that
in.
road, it's yeah.
Yeah,
Especially like when you're playing with a sex binding hormone like that. Sorry, sex
yeah,
binding. When you're playing with a sex hormone like that,
yeah,
it starts manipulating things on a system wide level versus
yeah.
like
Once
a
the
beta
physiological
cell or
change is
something
in,
like that.
yeah. Once the
Yeah,
physiological change is there, it's really. I don't think I haven't looked, so I obviously I can't say it with 100% certainty, but I'm very, very sure once it's in and it's there.
yeah. Uh, um, 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 Ooh, one, dun, 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 dun. Would you rather be glued to one spot forever or be constantly constipated? I mean,
Hmm.
if you're glued to
I
one
mean,
spot,
yeah, but you
you're
can be
kind
glued
of
to the toilet.
constipated anyway.
Well, you be glued
Yeah,
to the toilet. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't know. Be glued to one spot. Probably have to be constipated because you can still move around.
yeah. Like
Because
with
constipated
constipation, you
doesn't.
still eventually shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say literally, like you still have to eventually go.
Yeah, like I can drink enough Metamucil and like insoluble and soluble fibers to kind of push something out. Whereas like glued to somewhere forever, that's it. Um, Last dish one. What do we got here? Oh, actually, hang on. There's no more for Matter. New coach with Matter. New coaches with Matter. What's the plan for expanding there? Yeah, so big news. If anyone hasn't caught on already by now, Big Rowan shall be starting up as a coach with us in the system. He just finished his masters in S&C and XI, so he'll be coming on board in that realm of expertise, and he's going to start working amongst like general clients, but also gives us an access of realm to the level of athlete that I previously just was not my focus, and still enables them to be a part of the Matter system to expect better coaching, better hands-on work, a better coaching standard, and just allows me to also pass on knowledge in realms of things like sports nutrition to clients or people that may not have got it otherwise. So yeah, it's gonna be some big things there with Rowan on board as well. So got a lot of content ideas. There's going to be a lot more training footage and a lot more educational stuff. So we're going to have him writing for the website as well to do more rehabilitation, S&C, and athlete-based coaching articles, which will expand us outside of the, I guess, more psych and bodybuilding performance aspects, which is obviously not where we want to just funnel ourselves, bottleneck. We don't want to bottleneck ourselves. So yeah,
Yeah.
that is about that.
The one that I've got that is a very good question. It's a two-parter. Does glycogen
Cool.
supercompensation apply well to powerlifting, and is it worth it to cut carbs in order to induce, even for lifters who don't need the carb depletion to make weight? So, glycogen supercompensation is simply filling up muscle glycogen stores to above maintenance or to above full in a sense, basically spilling. I guess is probably a good way to put
Mhm.
it
Yeah,
from
yeah.
a bodybuilding standpoint. You're spilling, so you just have an abundance of carbohydrates to do it. Now, to be effective with the supercompensation aspect of glycogen, you have to be at a point where your body is able to turn over rates of glycogen fast enough to use and utilize.
Mm-hmm.
If you're unhealthy, more like on the fatter, plumper side, for example, like most powerlifters, is super compensation going to be of any effect? Probably not, because you
Mm-hmm.
have more than enough energy in other facets, i.e., fat, to be used. Um, so yeah, so your muscles just basically going to go straight through muscle glycogen stores anyway first, and then you're just going to pull in a ton of water with the extra carbs. Um, so no, I don't think it's worth it as a powerlifter. In saying that, I will always say powerlifters do not need as much energy as you think. I coach them. I do their nutrition. I'm very well aware.
I mean, my
So
1 rep max doesn't require 7,000 carbs.
no, 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 not at all. Yeah, like again, as much as it's I don't hate, I do hate, sort of don't hate, kind of do hate powerlifting in a sense. I love the fact that people can understand that they are much stronger than they believe or than they ever thought, and that there's something tangible for them to gauge it against. It's awesome. Like,
Mhm.
by all means. The mentality still around powerlifting when it comes to nutrition and especially PEDs is really fucking backwards and still stupid as fuck. Like, we still have people thinking the fatter you are, like the more weight you move. It's like, no, it's not how it works. That's not physics. Mass doesn't necessarily move mass in that aspect. So just no. Um, and then people will have this idea that, like, yeah, I need to eat all these carbohydrates because I need all this energy to lift a weight. And it's like, when we have the opposite, like bodybuilders dieting down on like minimal food, still lifting their maximal efforts for reps or whatever it is,
Mhm.
when we start to see that and understand actual, physiology, it's kind of like, okay, well, we don't need as much as we think. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like the only reason why you'd be eating, an excessive amount of carbohydrates is if you're actually depleted from a muscular standpoint. So your muscle glycogen stores are actually genuinely depleted. That is
Mhm.
super hard to do.
Mhm.
Super compensation from a glycogen standpoint is most popular in marathon runners.
Yes.
Why is it most popular in marathon runners? Like, look at what they do.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
run
Running
42
fucking
fucking
ultras in
kilometers.
24 hours probably requires some
It,
food, some
there's
feeding.
a reason why they turn over energy so much more efficiently
Mhm.
than a bodybuilder, and definitely
Yeah.
more efficiently than a fucking powerlifter.
Yeah.
Because again, most powerlifters are stuck in the stone age. Not all powerlifters. I'm not saying that. Like, there's still quite a few that are good and understand this side of
Mhm.
things and all that sort of stuff. But the majority is still, you're stupid. And we won't even get into
Yeah.
strongman. So we won't touch the rock huggers and the landscapers. That's fine.
But even like yeah, it's an interesting comparison to argue for in that, like, if you look at your endurance runners, you're looking at, like, 5 days of loading the necessary carbohydrates, and not like, not 5 high bodybuilder days, but we know it sits usually between like 6 to 12 grams of carbs per kilogram of lean mass or muscle mass. So if we look
Yep.
at that from that sense, you might have your more aerodynamic, tinier framed runner. Let's say they're, I don't know, fucking 70, 80 kilos tops because they're more length and skinny and not carrying as much muscle tissue. Even if you give them, say, 12 grams of carbohydrates at the top end, you're only getting to like 700 carbs over a couple of days, spaced out with adequate hydration, electrolyte balance to make sure that they're well fueled for efficient durations of such a length of output. Because then after that, we then get into that process of like the aerobic versus anaerobic conversion point, where they start utilizing more fats than they do carbohydrates because they've gotten into that next level of threshold. Then they have to put it back in. But even
Yeah.
still, they're fueling for a couple of days beforehand to do hours upon hours of consistent aerobic activity. So, like, we're not the same. We're not.
Yeah.
We train for sets at a high degree of output intensity, then rest. And if you're a powerlifter, you do even less.
Yeah. Well, we know that. So, like, again, from the data, give or take, muscle glycogen stores on average are anywhere between, I think, 2 and 4 or 3 and 5 gram per kilo, give or take, ish, person dependent. So super compensation would literally be like 8 to 10 grams max, like really per person
Yeah.
or per kilo. So it's like, if you think about it, you got a 100 kilo guy on 10 grams of carbs per kilo. It's 1,000 grams of carbs. Yeah, like that's a
Yeah.
lot. Like, that's
It's
more
a
than
lot of
enough
carbs.
to induce what we call super compensation. Now, how many people can effectively eat carbohydrates in a day and actually utilize that
Yeah.
energy? Like, there's not many like styles of training that require that amount.
Mhm.
Sure, CrossFit, maybe MMA because they're training 2 or 3 times a day, that sort of stuff, and like CrossFit 2 to 3 times a day type
Mhm.
scenario. Marathon runners who do a fucking
Mhm.
shitload of aerobic work. Like, what is carbohydrate actually really good for? Like, it's actually like, in glycogen, it's really great for like anaerobic work, right? problem is anaerobic work and anaerobic thresholds we know are only up to like 10 to 12 seconds when it comes to using glycogen before we start having, the lactic acid cycle kick in and all this sort of stuff. And then that actually kicking itself in. But what makes that process more efficient? Being aerobically fit. It also makes that process even better, inducing more carbohydrates and glycogen. So it's like, it's why marathon runners can a good marathon runner, a lean marathon runner, can go through the supercompensation side of things and use that as a carbohydrate fuel for their run or whatever it is, their comp. Like you could almost do it with like sports players, like track and field sports players, or track and field, like field sports players, like footy, soccer. Like we know that these guys at the elite level, they can probably 24 hours beforehand have a bigger carbohydrate meal, completely fill their stores, because they're not going for a look or a weight-based sport. Even if they were to spill, as we call it, whoop-de-fucking-do, they're going to basically use it the next day. So it's like they can top up,
and then they'll just go play.
They can exactly top up their energy stores, their glycogen stores, and then some, and still be, effective in their day or in their match. Whereas if you're in a weight class sport, for example, like we have to worry about the actual weight that comes in. But if the weight's not a problem, then you have no reason to super compensate. Like just eat your fucking carbohydrates, go to your powerlifting comp, do your 1 RMs and get out.
Simples. Yeah, that's it for me.
That's it from me. Keep it nice and simple. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, like next week's episode, we'll be back to normal.
Back to normal and not fucking 7 o'clock at night.
Back to normal in Melbourne, where it's going to be freezing. Fucking kill me. Bring your t-shirt down. Again, you put the bloody microphone in your neck, fat neck.
I'll have to try and bring up some Schofield research just to piss you off.
Oh, bro, don't even start. The thing is, and I think like people will be like, "Oh my god, he's hating on like one of the pioneers." Man, I've read nearly like every piece of research that dude has done. I've got his book. I bought his book. I'm that guy. So it's like, don't start. Like I said, I give credit where credit's due. He's actually had some really good positive influences on the entire system of things when it comes to muscular research and all that sort of stuff, and performance-based stuff and all that, muscle hypertrophy, all that. It's more so like after that, like it's really just stupid.
Yeah,
like there's nothing new, so it's just like harping on stupid shit. It's like watching Menno post stupid shit. It's like, oh, okay, cool. But again, then I got to look at the demographic that they're probably posting to and who they're trying to talk to. It's like they're not trying to talk to us. I get it, but it's still going to frustrate.
Well, the problem is to me is when they do try to talk to us, from the sense of like you get somebody who's never trained or been like or engaged in such a high level, say bodybuilding or training intensity or training growth or like pushing supplements or PEDs, and then they talk on it, or like this is what the data says, these guys are wasting their time. Like, bruh, everyone knows anything about causal relationships. From your data, you can't make that statement. So
exactly right.
You're still wrong. You're weakening your authority by claiming to say more than you actually know.
Well, that's just it. It's just like, just sit down and chill out, bro. Just
relax. No one's making fun of you because you're natty or fucking, challenging your authority on things. Like, you don't need to weaken the point by just being like, this population of 25-year-old 1-year trained male athletes represents all training styles and training ages and levels, and therefore we know that you don't need to go past 10 sets. Bro, what?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Anyways, that's it for me before we ramble for another fucking episode.
Bad. It's like people are going to be like, so Schoenfeld, huh? in the questions.
Yeah, tomorrow. Next week. Next week.
So, what do you think about so and so? Oh, shut up. Anyway. All right, guys and girls, as always, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, you're having a great weekend. Be safe. Goodbye.
See you guys.